Now we're going to focus on phylum Chordata. Phylum Chordata focuses on animals that have a nerve cord, hence chordata. A nerve cord is another name for spinal cord. This comes from the brain. Now, some taxonomists regard phylum Chordata as a superphylum with 3 total phylums, but we're going to focus on phylum Chordata having 3 subphylums. Here are some terms that you need to know. I would encourage you to make some index cards on these. The first one is herbivorous or herbivore, means eating plants. Carnivore, carnivorous, refers to eating meat. And omnivore, or omnivorous, is referring to eating both plants and meat. An example of a herbivore would be a rabbit, a cow, a deer. An example of a carnivore would be a lion, a dog. An example of an omnivore would be a human, a raccoon, a bear. Now, chordates and vertebrates have separate sexes, and this means one animal is going to be a male and the other animal is going to be a female. Then we have the term hemoglobin. This is referring to the center of the red blood cell. Heme referring to iron. So what color will animals have if they have hemoglobin as their center element or center structure? That's going to be iron, so it's going to be red. Hemoglobin is going to help with the production or the absorbing of oxygen in the blood. Then we have the alimentary canal. The alimentary canal is the pathway from the mouth to the anus. So basically the alimentary canal follows mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, then anus. Then we have 3 terms, oviparous, viparous, and oviviparous. Oviparous, and one of the key little points here is, or parts of the word is O. Think of it as an egg. So oviparous animals lay eggs. That would be such as chickens, birds, all different types of birds. Then we have viparous. Viparous is referring to vive, meaning live or to live. This is live birth. This would be a rabbit, a cat. The baby is usually born in a placenta and develops inside the womb. While oviparous, the first one, the baby develops inside the egg. And then the last term, ovo and viviparous, ovo meaning egg, vivi meaning live. This is actually something that few animals, like some snakes and some sharks, do. Ovoviparous, meaning the animal develops inside an egg, but the egg is inside the body. So when it hatches, it comes out and it looks like live birth. So basically the baby shark will be developing inside the mother, inside the egg. It will then hatch, come out, and it'll look like live birth, but what else will come out of the mother will be the eggshell. So you can look up these terms on Google or in the dictionary for a detailed explanation. Okay, here are the 3 subphylums of Chordata. The first one we're going to focus on is UROCHORDATA, and this is going to be describing the tunicates. Then we have Cephalocordates, and this is going to be described by the lancelets. And then we have Vertebrata, or those with a backbone, a vertebrae. And the vertebrates, this is about 60,000 different species that are recognized. Now, UROCHORDATA, remember, is a chordate, but it's not a vertebrate. Because we have the 3 subphylums of Chordata, it has a nerve cord, but remember, number 3 was Vertebrata, right? So this has a nerve cord, but no backbone. So it's an invertebrate, but it's not technically put in the invertebrate category. It's going to be still considered a kind of a pre-vertebrate animal because it has a structure that's similar to a vertebrae. And this structure is kind of like a splint. When you put a splint on your arm, it is a structure that does not wrap around the the spinal cord, but it actually lines above the spinal cord. It does provide some support, but it does not completely cover and surround and protect the nerve cord. So tunicates are marine animals, and you can see one in the picture there. It's not the fish, it's actually that bluish sponge-like structure. And the focus is when it's a larva, it has something called a notochord. And the notochord is that structure that's like the splint. So when it's a larva, it has the notochord, and then when it becomes the adult, it loses its notochord, but it never gets a vertebrae. Okay, so we said the larva has the chordate characteristics, and the larva will be free swimming, and it'll go into the ground and grow as an adult. The adult will be sessile, like a sponge, not moving. And these are not sponges, but they are called sea squirts. Here's a picture of the larva, and you can see there's the dorsal nerve cord, and then below it is the notochord, that splint-like structure that provides some support. But when it becomes an adult, it loses the notochord. It keeps the nerve cord, but it loses the notochord, and it gets a covering. Hence the word tunicate. Tunicate. So a tunic is a covering over the whole body. So you can see on the left side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 words down. We have the word tunic, a covering. So you can see there's the ganglia, the brain, has a little basic nerve system, it has a digestive system, it has gills. So basically this structure looks very similar to maybe a sponge. It has an in-current structure, ex-current siphon, kind of like a clam, but it is in the chordate category, not the vertebrate, but the chordate category, because the larva has the notochord, which acts similar to a vertebrae. Okay, and why is it called a tunicate? Because it loses the notochord and it gets a covering, a tunic. Okay, here's the lancelet. The lancelet is a cephalocordate. In the same way, it has a notochord and a nerve cord. So it is called a chordate because it has the nerve cord. Cephalo meaning head region, so it does have a little head region. And what's interesting about these guys, they do not ever lose the notochord. So they keep the notochord for the rest of their life, but they never form a vertebrae. So the tunicate will lose the notochord when it becomes an adult. For the lancelet, though, it will always stay in its life cycle. It will always keep the notochord. So the lancelet is small. You can see in the hand of a fisherman. You can see how small it is on the finger. It is segmented. It has little internal segments or separations, and it is very fish-like. And as we said, it retains or keeps the notochord throughout its whole life, but it will not develop into a backbone. So you can see a picture here. You can see the nerve cord is dorsal. You can see the notochord is below that, is going to be more ventral, and it provides that support. Now we're going to move into the vertebrates. Today we're only going to focus on fish. But you can see we break this up into 3 fish classes: the amphibians, the reptiles, birds, which is called aves, and then mammals. So vertebrates have a backbone, and this wraps around and protects the nerve cord. So again, what is the vertebrae? What is the vertebral column? You can see the separations. We divide it into neck vertebrae, which is called cervical vertebrae, neck vertebrae. We have thoracic, which is back vertebrae, or your chest vertebrae. And then we have the lumbar, which is lower back. And then we have the sacral, or sacrum, which is part of the coccyx, and that's going to be the tailbone. A single vertebrae is going to have a spine. It's going to have little wings called transverse processes, transverse. And then it has a body and a space called a foramen. And that space is where the nerve cord or the spinal cord goes. Now there are 3 fish classes that we're going to focus on. The first one are the agnathans, which are going to be the jawless fish. And then we're going to focus on chondriichthyes, which are fish with cartilage skeletons, and then osteichthyes, which are fish with a bony skeleton, hence osteo referring to bone.